A pleasure to be back again. Last time I was here, I went a little far afield, both literally and metaphorically, and I have been gently counseled to slow down just a little bit, and also stay in one place in order for us to have the proliferation of these words beyond just this day. Although Shabbat, it's really special to be able to learn Torah just with us in this special time. And so I'm a walker, I'm a wanderer, but it's all the same God, right? We each have a different way of expressing, and yet we all pray to the same Hashem with one another. This is what it means when we say in the Amidah, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov. Anybody know that midrash? Why do we say Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov? Why do we use these God's name for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Anybody? Anybody? Why would we say each of their names? It's an entirely different relationship with each of these individuals. So then the second question, my good Rabbi, why is it Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov? Are we polytheists? Or perhaps is there another? Oh, good. So what's that? Oh, why could it be for one person Elohei? Not that I'm a polytheist. I don't believe that there's this God of good and this God of evil, but do you have... God has Shivim Panim Lashem. God has 70 different faces. Does God have a face? Okay, that's a different story. No. But aspects. And so when we say Elohei Avraham, what could that mean? Or Elohei Yaakov in this case. What does it mean? Elohei Yaakov. God, I don't want to say God's, it's not plural, but God relates differently at different parts of our lives in different ways. This I know. I know this. I used to pray to God for O. Henry candy bars right around Halloween. It was amazing. Every Halloween, because I didn't go out, my dad got me 14 O. Henrys and 2 Snickers because I decided not to go out on Halloween. He thought it was a pogrom, so he didn't like Halloween. So I used to think God was just the most magnificent thing in that regard. And other times in my more rebellious stages, God was this angering lightning rod that I could rail against, and somehow I still felt okay in the end. Elohei Yaakov is literal. God does not come like it came to Abraham. Let's just do a little compare-contrast here. What does God do for Abraham? He says, Lech lecha, get thee forth. Go out. It's very just and noble. And what is the promise? The promise is the stars in the heavens. For Jacob, we read it in the Parsha today, Vayakom balayla. He gets up in the middle of the night. For Abraham, it is in the morning. It is a promise. It is noble. And it is almost speechified. Yaakov does not get such a gracious introduction. He certainly knows who Grandpa is. Feels that weight, that responsibility. Does not give up the God of his ancestors. And yet he says, conditionally, all right, good, fine, we're in it. Generation 3 or 3.0. You do this for me, give me some bread, give me a nice place, roof over my head, okay, then you can be my God. He puts it in a conditional Yaakov. God doesn't really answer that. But it's a very different God. And does God really in the beginning chapter speak to Yaakov? Appear? Vayar, Vayera? No. When does God appear to Jacob? When? What time? Is he a morning guy? Is he a nighttime guy? We talked about this with Abraham. Let's go back to Abraham. When does Abraham do his best work? He's an early bird. All right, now all of you guys, I know exactly who came to shul at 9:30. Okay, so I know who we are. They're very different personalities, the morning and the evening man. And Jacob is definitely a night owl. He also, as the night owl, has a very different way of relating with God. He sees God in dreams. God appears in a dream, a chalom. Gosh, the morning guy, he's up so early, I don't know, he just pushes the dream aside almost. Here in this dream, Yaakov sees God and talks to God, but not directly. It's always indirectly. And he struggles. In his midnight dream, Vayakom Balayla, he has all of his people going away. God is inclusive to Abraham. Isaac is a totally different story. Yitzchak, poor kid, middle child. We'll talk about him a different year. Yaakov has a nighttime relationship. And now that's the when. Now give me a little about the where. Where does Abraham see God? And angels, for that matter. In the front of his tent after the circumcision, the angels come. Notice here, Jacob, what does he do? For Esau, he sends out malachim. He sends out agents before him. He needs to do the work of God to make God present. I'm going to get back to that in a second. Yaakov struggles with what? An angel, an ish in this chapter. We're around page 204. I don't mind if you want to take it out and really struggle with the text, because certainly Jacob did. Was it himself? Was it an angel? Was it Esau? Was it God? Elohe Yaakov. These are the aspects of God to Jacob. His father, his grandfather, certainly. But also his brother, himself. A God that he hasn't really known the way Abraham knew him, the way Abraham could argue, the way Abraham could also in silence just give up and know that the promise was still there in the Akedah. Yaakov has none of this. So where does Jacob find this God? In darkness, in the absence of fire and light and signs? Certainly not on a mountaintop. This is where Abraham finds God, up on the... And I really relate with Yaakov. I related with Abraham too. I relate with all of them, but that's really what good Torah is about. I don't see God at the mountaintop. Have you ever been on a hike with someone and they say, oh my God, God's so beautiful. Ma gadlu masech. I'm like, it's good. It's good. Do you have any power bars? I mean, I get it. Yeah, they're flowing river. Oh, the sunset. Yeah, you know what happens? The sunset, it's almost every day. Even when you don't see all the pyrotechnics. Or I'm so cynical when someone's like, oh my God, LA sunsets are so beautiful. Yeah, smog. Thanks. Abraham has this kind of epiphany through nature. Jacob, not so much. He does have fantastic dreams. And his struggle, in fact, is in some ways with himself and with his God. That is how he gets to know God. And what does he always call these places? He calls them makom, right? Makom is a name for God. See, I want to walk around, I'm realizing. Makom, hamakom yenachem etchem, we say in mourning. Why do we say that? In the mourning space, hamakom is a name for God. May the space give you comfort. Because if someone's distant from God at that moment or feels distant from God, if you say, God bless you, child, God bless you, God loves you, you know what that Yaakov type character is going to say right back? Oh, really? Nice space you got here. Space is a gift. Yaakov has gone through tremendous struggle. He's not been the most, I don't want to say ethical, but there would be an inquiry, I'm sure of it, when it came to Laban and his children, and certainly the following chapters. What God gives him is not tzimtzum. This is not that God's presence is everywhere, and in order for Jacob to truly be Jacob, he needs some space. God's not retracting, but God is also not saying, Jacob, I like your grandfathers. Not in reality. In his dreams, he is struggling. He gives space. He gives space, God. God gives space without iterating exactly what he is or to do, because Jacob's got some struggles to deal with, makom. This is space. It is sacred. It's also not atheism, but it is not this declared, yay, God. He names the space Peniel. And in the English translation is, I have seen the face of God. Nothing could be further than the truth. Yaakov gets aspects of the divine, and it's enough to create space and to preserve that space, to fuse stones that became a pillow, and to say, yes, this is Beit El. This is the house of God. Hardest thing to do when God is absent, to create space, to call that space God, and then to say, okay, I set it up, you'll build it, you'll come. And God does come. Not through this struggle with the angels, not through, angels don't really do it for me. Not through his self-personal struggle. He doesn't prevail, he doesn't win or lose, he struggles and exists. And through this existence becomes space. And with this space, he then is able to deal with himself and the future by himself. This is not the God of Abraham, but it is the same God. And finally, after all of this struggle, this is when Beit El, he comes to lose, that is Beit El. In Eretz Canaan. This is Israel. What is Beit El as we read it? What is actually the house of God? What is it? It was a spot. B'makom asher diber. It's a space. That's it. And what does Jacob do? This is ironic. It's intentionally dramatic irony. So what does he do? We just read it. Matzevet Avin vayisech aleha nesech. He takes a rock and he sticks it in the middle, a matzeva, a marker, and he pours oil on it. You know what it reminds me of? You know, I don't know, is there any development in Orange County? I'm kidding, of course, okay. So you know they put those little sticks around with the little strings, and they're like, yeah, there's my Miggy Man, no, there's my Mega Milla, or my villa, right? Is that a villa? No, it's a bunch of little strings with a stick, but it is. You plant it, and that's what Yaakov does. Now listen, it says, this is where he appears finally after all of this struggle, after this purity, after this challenge, after this wrestle with himself. This is when God appears and says, you whose name of Jacob will be Jacob no more, Yisrael shall be his name. And God named him Yisrael, and God said, I am El Shaddai. Prurvu, you'll be a nation, assembly of nations, kings will come. When does that happen? After all the work. After the work without, I don't want to say without God. I want to say when space is created where God has not filled the space. This is not Hester Panim either. This is not God hiding face. It's giving us opportunity to struggle within ourselves, to create sacred moments, not where there is not, but simply where it's not already told you, here, pray here, do this. Now this seems to be a segue, but I think it's very relevant in these dark times. Textbook case of ethnic cleansing is the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, Rangoon, Bangladesh. You guys been following the Pope? Does he say something? Does he mention his name? He doesn't mention the name Rohingya in Myanmar because that would threaten the fragile power balance. As soon as he goes over to Bangladesh, he says, these people in this refugee camp, this is God's space. What? It's a place of horror. Yes. This is where you stick a stone and you say, this is the house of God. And then you create from that space God's presence because of our care and concern. Not because God is there, not because God is absent. It's right in between. And this is that fragile moment that Yaakov, grabbing at the heel, becomes Yisrael, struggling with humans and divine. Does it mean angels? No. It means our own struggle to create sacred space where it seemingly is absent in these dark times. Hanukkah is approaching. It's getting darker and darker. It seems like if I read the paper one more time of a person I respected that now is no longer respected, I don't know if I could read the paper. I know you feel it. We felt it last month. It's gotten any better? I refuse to let God's morality, God's agency disappear from my universe. Hanukkah is exactly this. Now back to Hanukkah. Did God miraculously let us discover this pure cruse of oil that let us rededify the temple? Okay, it's a nice story. Okay, fine, maybe. I'm not going to say no. What I am going to say is, just like Yaakov, the Maccabees realized there was not a pretty picture up at the temple with Antiochus Epiphanes IV. It wasn't pretty. What does it take? Yes, God, but it's not some miraculous beaming from heaven. It takes a lot of cleanup. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dignified space creating and some oil to create the space, and not just pray and wait for God to come, but to struggle with darkness, within darkness, and say, Vayehi or. This is powerful. To believe within darkness that there can be light, to not create the light yourself, but create space that is God's space. That is the God of Jacob. And then all of a sudden, God speaks to Jacob regularly and peacefully. Now, what's the irony at the end of Jacob's life at the song when he gives all the poem to all his kids? A lot of tsaris, this guy. Not the happiest Jacob. And he wouldn't say, oh, God filled me with blessings. I was so barech bakol. So I want to leave you with this, and it was at the end of our Torah study today. God bless Rabbi Dr. Lieber, my teacher who helped translate, but I always struggle with his translations. I did it when he was living, so thank God, God forbid. I'll do it again. Because it says that after his struggle with the angel, that after Jacob's struggle with the angel leaves. Vayevarech oto. Yivrach with a chet and yivrach with a kaf. It sounds like the same word, to flee. What is Vayivarech oto? Baruch. That when you feel like something has left, you may be given a blessing of opportunity. When you see a place to fill God's presence with your own in divine spirit, it may feel like you're lost, but you just got found. Jacob is the secret to Israel. As much as Abraham, as much as Isaac, as much as each of us. May we find in these dark times the space, hamakom, to present ourselves as the answer to these problems, and not a continuation of the darkness that seems to be encompassing, if not swallowing us whole. And so I think that the end, and why this Kaf Yerech, I want to say the tip of the male is throughout this parsha, is because he's struggling with what his identity and progeny will be. This is why the Dinah and Hamor story, it's not his hip socket. Let me just say that. Kaf Yerech. You look at it. I believe it's really about our brit, our covenant, what it means to be the people Israel. And in absence, it's our ultimate responsibility and opportunity. May we make the most of it. So Shabbat Shalom. It's a pleasure to be with you.